It is now less than 6 days and counting. 5 days, 7 hours, and I think about 45 minutes to be precise, if I did my math correctly, before nearly 22,000 walkers and runners, more than 2,000 volunteers, and thousands of other supporters and watchers converge on downtown Grand Rapids for the 36th Riverbank Run. And as each year it is a pleasure for us to have with us in studio tonight, I was going to say my neighbor, which is true, race director Kristen Aidif and elite athlete recruiter Greg Meyer, who of course our former colleague and co-host Jason Terzis would always point out and stress every year was the last American. He did, didn't he? Yeah. To win the Boston Marathon back in 1983. And we have some video to show you in honor of Jason and Greg, of course. Visual proof from 30 years ago for those of you too young to remember, or like Casey, who wasn't quite born yet. Greg, of course, returned.
Notice the little bit of hair left.
Yes. You look good.
You do.
You look good.
He, of course, returned for that 30th anniversary to run the marathon with his sons 20 days ago, when what was supposed to be a joyous occasion turned into terror and tragedy with the bombings that killed 3 and injured so many others. Greg spent that day and many others answering questions and giving us insight here at Wood TV8, many other media outlets in West Michigan, across our state, and in fact across our country for that matter. So we'd just like to say thank you to Greg and Kristen for that, especially at what was such an emotional time for Greg with his sons down at that finish line with him that Monday afternoon. And just to be transparent, we're going to leave those questions and answers now in the past, where we hope they will remain forever and not have to be asked again. The Boston bombings certainly forced Kristen and her staff and local authorities to take some extra security precautions this year, which will affect those of you at home coming to the race in some minor ways downtown Saturday. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But let's begin on a positive note and a community note, because that's what this race is about. When you look at participation, who's getting involved, that tells you all you need to know, and good numbers again this year.
Good numbers again this year. You know, the year after anniversary year, we always worry a little bit because we have a lot of people that come back for the anniversary year, but right now we're running about 1.5% up from where we were last year, and the weather will be telling this year. If we get some good weather next weekend, the shorter distances will jump up.
And Greg, as we talk about the numbers continuing to increase, that race size increasing continues to attract some global talent, and you're in charge of those elite runners. What do we got this year?
We've got Robert Ludning coming back on the men's side. He won last year. On the women's side, we lost Janet to an injury earlier, but we've got about 3 or 4, 2 Kenyans and an Ethiopian. But actually, the women's field on the U.S. side is really strong. So it's going to be an interesting year. There's 6 or 7 of the women who have a shot to win. So it'll be fun to watch them race.
Yeah, it's such a great community event. We forget sometimes that it's a U.S. national championship race, and we do have such great international runners as well. Flooding was a big concern here, obviously, not only for the race, but for everyone in West Michigan. There was some concern about changing the course, but I know we're going to keep the traditional course.
Yeah, good news. We had the Priority Health 25K cycling tour today out there on the course, and it was great. One area of Butterworth, there's just a path through the water right now, but the city's telling us that's going to be gone in a couple days. They've dragged trees out of the way, and they're going to get some earth movers, and we should be good to go next Saturday.
Excellent.
And you've been taking, Greg, some of these runners through parts and bits of this course, and the road warriors. You got to work with them a couple days ago. Some of these runners that have incredible, extraordinary stories. About 10 of them that'll be running in this, and you train them pretty intensive, at least for one day, because I was with you for that training.
Well, you know what? It's such a great group, and anytime people come together for an extended period of time and do that kind of work, they get very close, and they cheer one another on, and it's been great to watch. But what amazes me are the transformations of the people. People that can lose 60, 70, 80 pounds, you know, and most of the elite athletes, they're freaks. They were born that way. But to be able to re-engineer yourself into this fit person is incredible. I mean, it really is motivating to see what they've done. So it's actually good for me to go see them. It reminds me that I need to get out the door and run a little bit.
You and me both. And you know, Casey mentioned some of the folks in Josh Warren, a guy who's going to run in his father's shoes. We'll have a story on him coming up this week. We met Tom Darling. Casey and I are going to have a story on him too from the letter that you read at the news conference a couple weeks ago. So great individual stories, and a couple people as well who, as you mentioned, Greg, just wanted to get into shape and have done a great job doing that.
You know, it's wonderful in a sport like this, the Fifth Third Riverbank Run. People get to do that and share that and get the help they need to actually make those changes. It's special to see that.
Now, Kristen, what's this new piece of technology that runners will be wearing on their bibs? It's going to Explain it.
Yeah, no, I'm fired up about it. It's a QR code. It'll be on everybody's bib. 5K, walk and run, the 10K, the 25K. When you cross the finish line, take your smartphone, snap up a pic of it, and your results come up instantly.
Wow.
Unofficial results, mind you, because we always have a little jockeying of moving people
Close
around
enough.
afterwards, but close enough, and then you can share those results in social media, Facebook, Twitter, via email. You can send it to your mom who may live in another state and say, hey, Mom, look, I finished. But it's really fun just because people like to share what they've done. For many people, they've been training for 5 and 6 months. They cross that finish line, they'll be able to let people know it.
That's awesome. As a guy who's covered this event, been here for 17, 18 years now, I hate to admit it, living around the corner from the race director, but I would come on race day and cover it, but you didn't get involved in a lot of the other pre-activities going on. My daughters, as you know, ran in the junior back in the day when they were little. Can you just talk about that? And then there's the fitness expo going on Friday. I mean, it is a week long of activities, and that really can enhance somebody who wants to come to the race to make it a week long activity instead of just a one-day race.
Truly. We've got the 5th or junior event out at Wyoming High School, formerly Rogers High School. Half-mile and 1-mile fun runs around the track starting at 5:30, 5K run at 6:30, all for kids ages 5 to 13. We have about 2,000 kids that are going to be out there blasting around that track, one of my favorite parts of the week. Sports and Fitness Expo at DeVos Place on Friday from 11 a.m. to 8 p. There is no cost at the door, absolutely free. So tons of fun, about 130 vendors. Late registration. Last time you can register for any of the Fifth Third Riverbank Run events. And then, of course, Saturday morning, Greg and I will be down there bright and early for the start of the 36th annual Fifth Third Riverbank Run.
And there's been some changes to some of the races, the 5K. Just talk about the staggered starts as opposed to the heat races and just the changes leading up to this 2013 race.
Well, the 5K run has always been a challenge. It's a huge event, a lot of people, and unlike the 25K, you don't have 15.5 miles to spread those people out along the course, and the streets are only so wide. So we've gone to separate starts, same start. This year we're going to do a staggered start. So everybody will line up. Air horn will go off at 7:20, but depending on the size of the crowd, we'll let the first 600 to 900 go. A couple minutes later, the next 600 to 900. So that way everybody can get out, spread out, actually run the 5K run, and maybe even get a PR. It'll be a nice change for people doing the 5K.
All right, we've got about 45 seconds left, and the last thing we want to bring up, unfortunately, because of Boston, there's going to be some security issues. I know you have addressed with us here during our newscast that we'll have extra police down there. I guess for the folks at home, what do they not want to bring down? They don't want to bring down backpacks and things of that nature, right?
I mean, really, we're asking people to leave any extra baggage at home. If you don't need it, just don't bring it down. If you're a participant and you're planning on coming down, use the gear check available in DeVos Place. We open up at 6 a.m. on Saturday. Unlike past years, we're not going to be taking your bag. We're going to ask you to take your stuff, put it into our white drawstring bag. We'll keep it safe for you. You come back and pick it up at 12:30. And even though you may have always left your stuff under that third bush in front of DeVos Place, and it's always there when you come back, this year it's not going to be. We're going to be doing security sweeps the whole time. Use gear check, don't bring a lot of extra stuff, and be the eyes and ears for the Fifth Third Riverbank Run.
Needed precautions, but again, it's going to be a great week, and we look forward to seeing both of you Saturday. Thanks for coming in to the studio today and talking about it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.